not reading the kitty book tonight. Proverbs 9. Later. I am thrilled to tell you that I finally managed to read my entire novel. And I'll be honest, I'm upset that it took me this long. I wanted to kind of be moving into the editing process already. So there's a few like big things that I need to do, and then everything else is just little smaller changes that I need to like go through my notes on. I have not had a lot of energy these last couple of weeks, and I think I finally figured out why that is, but it's not something that I can fix right away. Only thing that can fix it is time. So we're just gonna have to wait, but it's made me less productive. And I'm so glad that a couple of weeks ago I implemented the 30 minutes in the morning, because on some days that is the only time that I'm actually getting anything done. I don't know why, but I was reading my novel on my phone for a bit because it's in a Google Drive, so that's just what's easiest for me to jump back and forth between. Now it's like saying that I can't connect to it, and so that was really annoying because I was like, well, now I can't read in the morning when I'm waiting for my tea, and I can't read when I'm at the grocery store, and so like all of the places that I had a little bit of leeway where I could read without being totally distracted kind of went away. So I really had to just lock in and focus, and that's actually what we're going to do tonight. We are going to sit down, I'm going to close all of the extra tabs on my computer, and we're just going to do it. And before anything, in order to key my brain in that it is time to focus, we need to make a drink. Now, I have not been in the mood for tea or coffee. It's kind of been annoying actually, because in the morning I'm like, I don't want tea and I don't want coffee, but nobody is stopping us from making a fancy water. I got a bowl of ice cream too. There's 3 big scenes that I really need to work on tonight. I guess really there's 2, because one of them I worked on this morning, but I have to add like 1 sentence into that new scene. So I can start with that because that's easy. Or maybe I should end with that because you're supposed to eat the frog first, which we should practice what we preach, right? As you can clearly see, we have a video game tempting me on the screen. So the first thing we're going to do is close that. All right, so now that we've removed our distractions, the main thing, the frog that I need to eat today, is that I want to work on the beginning. I have a lot of work in the beginning. One of my beta readers said it was the first 10 pages, so we're gonna go with that. The first 10 pages of my book go by way too fast, and there's a lot of world building that I need to establish at that point that I really just need to put into there and like make everything longer. So I have a lot of really extensive notes on like where I can add stuff to like add to the world building. The reason it's so fast is because I didn't want to bore the reader with world building, and so I was like, a lot of these things I can add in later. Like there's several ashen ferals that I mentioned. The like key ones that you really need to think about are the raptor. I've changed their names and I have it written down somewhere, but I don't remember what I picked for most of them. It's just the tiger. The tiger is now the automata. I kind of like based their appearance on the odogaron from Monster Hunter World, and then also in the movie Avatar with the blue people, there's like a black cat creature that I can't remember what it's called, but I kind of based the tigers off of like combining the odogaron with the black cat thing from Avatar. So I decided we could call them odomata because it's the odogaron with mata from Neko Mata, which is like a demon cat from Japanese folklore, if you don't know that. So I thought that that was like perfect because the Ashen are supposed to be demons. I don't know, it just worked out in my head. But to come full circle, I skipped a lot of the descriptions for these creatures and put them in later in the story so that there wouldn't have to be as much world building up front. But like a lot of the feedback I've gotten is maybe you could describe the creatures more. And I'm like, okay, so you want me to describe the creatures up front. And another thing that I really need to establish establish in the beginning and the exposition here is that Hyacinth is the princess of the Ashen and that the Ashen are at war with Eladria. The fact that there's a war going on is not very clear. So that is the first thing that we're going to do, and I'm hoping when I put on my music and I just get into it and I get into my zone that everything will go smoothly and we will be able to get a lot done. The only caveat is that I did not sleep very much last night. I'm very tired. I probably got 4.5 hours of sleep, and then I took an hour-long nap in the middle of the day. So I'm kind of operating on fumes here, which is not conducive to good writing nor focus. So we're gonna see how it goes. Water is really good for waking you up, and sugar is really good for waking you up. So fingers crossed. I have to stop. I don't want to stop, but I just can't stay awake any longer. Honestly, the stuff I'm putting in probably is not very good, but done is better than perfect. The nice thing about having even stuff that's not good in my document is that when I come back later, at least there's words. And like, it's good enough that I know what I was trying to say. The writing compared to my usual writing is just very, I don't want to call it amateur, but there's an elegance to it that's really lacking when I write when I'm tired. My energy has been very frustrating because I just feel like I'm not getting as much done as I want to. I did take out a chapter break and I added in the description of the automata, and I'm kind of torn between whether or not I should add the shambler description, because there's a scene where they're having a resonance test about, I don't know, halfway through the novel, and that's when I actually describe the shambler. I feel like it is more important that I describe the shambler in the scene where they're having their resonance test, because the shambler is actually a very important character and you're not supposed to realize it. It's actually, I've put it in there to be like reread values. When you're reading through the first time, you shouldn't really realize who the shambler is, but then if you read through the book the second time, you'll be like, oh my goodness. And then like you'll be like mind blown. So that's why it's more important that I describe the shambler in that scene. But maybe what I could do is I could just do a vague, ambiguous description of the shambler here and then describe the raptors in this scene. And I still don't remember what I need to look it up. I need to look at what I called the raptors, but I think I took a screenshot of it because I knew I would text past it. I added a little bit of relationship development between Hyacinth and her Malkar, which is like her personal guard. But I need to find a way to like fit in an explanation for who she is and who the Malkar are. And hold on. I could maybe add it right here. The Ashen always address Hyacinth as Maltesh. So I could have where she's coming in and they're saying Maltesh, I could have that be an explanation of what Maltesh means and sort of talk more explicitly about what Hyacinth's position within the Ashen is, because I've sort of already said it, but I haven't actually said it. I really hoped that I could get more done today. We have to work with what we have, and we're moving away from toxic productivity. And so even though I could go in and change all of the spots where I say tiger to automata, I'm not going to, but I could. I confess I had a little bit of a hard day today, so I'm really looking forward to just sitting down and relaxing with some writing. I am hopeful that I can just get into my zone really easily today, put on some music and, you know, just get to it. I've been enjoying that cafe music that I had put on last week. That was the first time I listened to it, and now I've been listening to it every morning. So I do my best thinking while I'm driving. So I try really hard to use that time to think about my novel and think about where I'm going to go and what kind of scenes I'm going to add. And so today I really put some effort into trying to think about some of the ways that I can extend the beginning. I want to do a scene where she's getting some reports from her scouts, so that she can like showcase some of the differences between the Ashen and the Eladrian, and then just really establish that there is this war going on. And that was kind of the only thing that I really thought about being able to add today. So I'm gonna write that, and I'm sure that will develop into something else. That's just how it goes as a discovery writer. So I'm still very tired, but we're just gonna see what we can get done. And there's a scene right here that I want to add to a little bit. It's just, so the Ashen homeland, which is called Vectuil, doesn't really have any water. I've based it off of Venus, and when I was researching, it said that Venus had an average humidity of 0.02% or something. So unsurprisingly, there is no water on Vectuil, and Hyacinth doesn't really know what water is. There's a section right here where it says the beast had been impaled by 4 large spikes of frozen water. I'm using frozen water very intentionally there, but I think it would make more sense to the reader if I kind of explain that right away, because it is very strange. So I might follow up with Hyacinth like touching the water or something, and then one of her Malkar, which is her personal guard, explaining that it's called ice because they've been doing this a little bit longer than she has for the most part. One of them is 7, but the rest of them have been doing this a lot longer than she has. I'm pleased to say that that went really well. I did not get all the way through the beginning, but I created a perfect cultural scene for the Ash. That was one thing that my beta reader really mentioned. She said to go into the cultures between the Ashen and the Eladrians more, and so I'm actually really happy with this scene. It's kind of graphic and kind of terrible, but I'm just really happy with it. She has her meeting with the scouts, and that inevitably turns into her punishing the scouts. And at first she's like, I don't want to do this, but I have to because it's what my people expect of me. And then in the end, her Ashen blood takes over and she loses control essentially, and later finds out just how bad it actually was. I feel like this scene gives Donnell more character. He's not really very established, and I don't know that the Malkar really need to be super well established. The only ones that are really important in her Malkar are Sariel and Saya, so I don't want to put a ton of emphasis on the other 3, because honestly the most important thing you need to know about them is just that they're her personal guard. But yeah, I'm happy with where that actually got to. It ended up being 1,224 words, and so I feel like with the other really brief passage that I did I do another brief passage? I did do another brief passage, but it did not add a significant number of words to the story, so we're just not going to count that. But I'm happy with 1,224 words because that's kind of my goal, and I do feel a lot more energized than when I first sat down, which feels really good because I did have a really hard day, and this was just so refreshing. I love writing. Writing really is... Sorry. Writing is just very special to me. It always has been, and it really hurts me that people are like using AI and they're not writing as much and they're not putting effort into this craft. As people stop writing, they're going to lose even more of their ability to communicate. And I don't think people realize just how important writing is to our ability to communicate and our ability to think for ourselves and maintain our independence. And so I don't want to end on such a heavy note. I think in my next session, I'm going to really try to finish the beginning and like extend the beginning, because I feel like I maybe have like 1 or 2 more scenes and then I can be done. I feel like the beginning is always the point where I get stuck, but it's okay. That's why we're working on it. I'm actually really excited to write tonight, and I did not think I was going to be. I thought that I was going to be tired like I have for the last couple of days. My hair is a disaster. What is going on here? I'm going to take this opportunity to see if I can really just hone in and focus. Earlier, I looked up a few things that like generals would do on a day-to-day basis to give me ideas for what kind of scenes I could write to sort of establish Hyacinth's life before the inciting incident. So I'm going to do a couple of those different things. I'm going to have her go to the front lines and talk with some of her troops. And then I want to do a scene where she's like looking at a map and use that as an opportunity to do some world building. Of course, I'm going to have a map at the beginning of the novel, so I'm not going to do too much there, but just kind of position Hyacinth in the world so that once she's actually traveling, readers have an idea of at least what route she's passing through. There will be a couple of landmarks. What do you guys think about like building maps? Cartography has never been my strong suit. I am not like super thrilled about building a map. I don't want to sit there and draw all the little mountains and figure out the scale and get everything mathematically correct. That's probably why I don't like cartography, is because it's all very mathematical. Either way, after Hyacinth looks at the map, then I can kind of use that as a segue into the inciting incident. And by that point, I should hopefully be around the 8,000 to 10,000 words point. If not, I probably have to add one more scene, and I'm not sure what kind of scene I would add on top of that. But we don't have a lot of time. It's 8:37, which means that I have about an hour to write 3 scenes to really just get the exposition done. Everything's coming full circle. We're back at the beginning again. Might as well get going, right? I'm really torn. My bedtime alarm just went off, but I only have one more scene to write, and then I'll be entirely finished. I don't know when I'm gonna get energy like this again. I think I'm gonna keep going, and hopefully it does not take me more than 10 minutes to... I'm just gonna try to get in the zone, and we're gonna lock in. I did it! I finished the exposition. I am so glad that I managed to do that in 3 days. I'm going to reach out to my friend and see if she's willing to reread it. Also, I thought Vader was just so cute, so I had to film this from the angle where you could see him. Just look at him. Look at his little face. I am so glad that that only took me 3 days. I honestly thought it was going to take me the entire week. I was actually really dreading the edits that I had to make to the beginning because it just needed so much work. But I'm really glad that I ate the frog. It's ended up being about 9,000 words where I established the exposition, so I think that's honestly perfect. Plus, it's going to take a little bit more fine-tuning, which usually for me, that ends up making it longer rather than shorter, because as a discovery writer, I'm just like, ooh, this would be so good to add, and that would be so good to add, and it will probably end up being about 10,000 words. And from the research I did, expositions for fantasy novels tend to be like between 8 and 15,000 words, so I'm really glad that I was able to do that. I want to go to bed. I don't have the final word count of what I actually added in these 3 sessions the last 3 days. I will put it on the screen in post. I just don't have it for you right now because I have to kind of sort through and write down the word count for each segment. So it's right here. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please hit that like button if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe to become a member of the #Quilly community. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.